All right, hello, testing. Checking this mic to see if it works. Hopefully I did not bump it. We're using our new mic today, again. Picking up minimal stuff. Okay, good, sounds good. I had to turn off my dehumidifier because it is super loud, running nonstop. It's pretty humid here today, so let's switch this over. Hello Rebel Star, hello Curry. Nice looking. So you can see there's an image here of the kit we're gonna work on today. So I wanted to just do kind of a recap of what we did last time, as well as the plan for painting, because there is some minor strategy involved in why I chose the pieces that we're gonna be painting today. Yeah, there's a certain order we'll have to do. So we're gonna go through it before we start painting. But yeah, definitely painting today, hoping to get all of the whites done on this kit, as well as her pants. So guess what we'll do first is go into my painting reference again, just as an FYI for you all. This has been up here in the top left of the screen, and it will be as we are painting. Hope you are well. Thank you. Yeah, I'm doing all right. Did a lot of stuff for school today, so the reality is settling in, but that's fun. Anyway, so what we're going to be doing is painting this kit like Chun-Li. As you can see here, she's got a variety of whites and blues and mostly kind of brownish, reddish, orange colors going on. So last couple times what we did was paint spoons. So I think it was the past 2 or 3 streams. These are the final colors that we're going to be working with. So I did not change too many of these at all. Basically just mixed all of the colors that we're going to be spraying eventually onto this kit into vials. So let me pull out one, for example. I've labeled this one Monk Tights. So this is her pants basically that we're going to be working with. So all of these are in little vials now. And yeah, we're going to be pulling the vials out, working with spraying paints. Any clear colors have not been mixed. We will be mixing those, and we will be doing that today. I just find it's a lot easier to mix the clear colors on the fly. I don't really have a reason to preserve those clear paints for other kits, and so I just consider it like a shading extra. So yeah, we will be working with the figure today. These are the 2 colors we will be spraying. So we'll be working with this kind of stockings color for the pants here. So we'll be spraying these pants this color. and then a bunch of other pieces, this white color. I think I just heard a Kermie. Hey, thank you so much for the follow. 4 gathers. Appreciate it. We're gonna do lots of fun stuff today, so keep watching. Just doing a recap right now. But yeah, so we'll be painting the pants this color, and the rest will be like whites is in a broad category here. So you can see on Chun-Li's outfit in the top left, there's a couple of, areas that are purely white. And I say white pretty loosely because really it's got this shading on it, that kind of bluish shading we did before, and then it's kind of an off-white. So it's not a true white. This would be much closer to the true white, and this will be the color when it's, fully painted. But there's a bunch of pieces like that. So we got her boots that are gonna be pure white, or whatever this color white is, her ribbon, and her little scrunchy things. I'm not sure if this was actually hair or just a scrunchie, but I did want it to be kind of like Chun-Li's hair, like bow things up there. So we'll be doing that. And then we're gonna go into the kind of strategy that I am gonna talk about. So this figure actually does have a fair amount of masking and steps involved in it. There's a couple of pieces that do require multiple steps, namely her head and her shirt. And in order to do that, we're gonna have to break it into chunks. So in order to spray this blue, we can't just go in and spray it blue. We're gonna need to put this on a glossy white base first. So this blue color was sprayed on a white spoon, not a primed gray or black spoon, but we want that metallic to go on top of a glossy base, whether it's black or white or whatever. And so what we'll have to do today is spray all of her kind of dress clothes here, that white color, and then I will have to top coat it with a gloss, and the same goes for her shirt up here. So we're gonna have to spray that white and then gloss that before we move on to the next thing, which is her skin. So a couple of things going on here. We're gonna spray her skin, or not her skin, her top white. We're gonna gloss coat all of this, or at least the top part. After that, I'm gonna go into skin, so we'll have to save skin for another day. And we're doing skin all at once because her head is also 2 parts. So once we get the skin done, we'll be able to mask all of the skin off, and then spray finally the pieces that are blue and her hair. So first gloss white, top coat that, then put on the skin tone, top coat that, mask off all of the skin tone, and then spray our actual colors. So a couple things involved here, which is why we can't just like go directly into painting this. But other than those pieces, that's pretty much how complex it gets. We're kind of held behind by the fact that a couple of these pieces are sculpted as one and they need a little bit more work. So that pretty much will cover it. So skin and hair will kind of come more towards the end, but that's not a bad thing. That means we'll have our base colors down, and I'll be able to adjust the colors as needed, depending on what I want to do. I also did finish finalizing her skin tone, so I've got this kind of nice, healthy, brownish tone. Let me make this image bigger. You can see it's a little bit closer. It looks a little red under the light that, is in this booth, but I assure you it's more of a peachier, yellowy, healthier tone. And I've appropriately, or not appropriately, named this clear skin mystery skin. So basically I just combined like 2 or 3 other vials that I had on my bench of like remaining clear skin tone, and hoped it was okay. And so it turned out fine. So we'll be spraying this skin tone first, and then after that we're gonna go in with this Mr. Lascivus clear color, and really give us that kind of brownish tone as opposed to like a reddish tone. Anyway, that's later. Just wanted to kind of tell you what will happen. So I think that pretty much covers it in terms of what we'll be doing in the breakdown. So I don't see any reason not to just get going. If you guys have any questions, as always, just feel free to ask. I will be muting myself as part of, this for quite a bit because my booth is loud, and even louder because now I have this high quality mic which will pick up everything. So you'll just have to enjoy listening to music, etc. But I will kind of stop in between steps and let you know what I've been doing, if I make any mistakes, etc. Let's see, seems to be a good method for skin tones. You gotta try it. Yeah, it was just kind of like, I don't want to mix a whole new vial because I have so many leftover vials, and for kits that are like my own kits, so not commissions, most of the time I just end up using whatever I have on hand. I very rarely these days mix a new skin tone for my own kits unless it's something that I have really in particular, like it has to be a super pinky tone, etc. So yeah, so far seems like this kit will be very earthy toned. You've got a lot of really mild brown colors and stuff happening here, but this should be a lot of fun. I haven't painted a kit these colors for quite a long time, focusing more on blues and, well, not necessarily blue, but more the brownish reds, etc. Also, we'll be adding those gold details later, so I think that's what will really make this kit pop, is adding those golds. And that will be, the last step after all of that, because I'm thinking I might mask off certain parts. I'm not sure. I might just go freehand. We'll have to see. All right, so before you start spraying your kit, a lot of times what I do is just go in with each piece, and I'm just gonna hold an airbrush as an example. So I go in with each piece, if it will focus. Let's see. Come on. It was being very nice earlier. There we go. So yeah, go in with each piece, and I just lightly spray it without any paint in it to get any extra dust or anything off. So if your kit's been sitting on your bench for a while, or if you put it in a drawer or something and it's got primer on it, just give it a light spritz with just air only to brush any of that extra dust off. Otherwise it might get caught in your paint job. What I will be doing, and what we'll be doing first, is working with the whites. So I've got my Badger Sotar 2020. This is the lid. So I have that, and we will be focusing on the pre-shading first. So what we're gonna do is pre-shade with this Mr. Color 74, this Air Superiority Blue, the one we used for the spoons last time. And we will do all the pre-shading on the whites first, and then go in and just top coat white. And then, I think what I'll do after I pre-shade all of that is I'm gonna switch this airbrush out into my Iwata, and that's what we'll use for the base coat, because we don't need to do any pre-shading on the pieces like this. They're just, all I need here is a gloss white. So we're just gonna, top coat them white and then kind of leave them so I can gloss them later. Then after that, we'll transition into the pants. And the pants we will post shade. So we're gonna start with pre-shading on some pieces and with post shading on some other ones. And so I'll be using my Iwata for pretty much all of the base coating. And then when we go back in the clears, I'll switch my brush out again and use the Sotar. So kind of a lot of airbrush switches and things happening. That's kind of my regular procedure these days, is I switch out my brushes pretty often depending on what I need to do and what details I'm trying to get. Also, optional, and I didn't mention it because I just forgot about it until now, I may or may not top coat these white pieces, so her ribbon and her boots, with this Mr. Crystal Color. This is Tourmaline Green. It's XC06. This will give these pieces a really nice kind of greenish tint, but I'm undecided on it so far. You can see in this bottle, it's got a really nice green tint. I'm not sure if that's what I want. So what I will probably do is, once we finish all of the whites and stuff, I'll go in on a spoon, and I'm gonna do that on the spoon. So I'll spray a spoon first, set it aside, etc. But that way we have a reference before we just kind of start going ham on the kit. And if I don't like how it looks, it's fine. We don't have to use it. So that's the plan. So let's get started. And I just realized, well, yeah, never mind. We're good. Okay, so shake in this Air Superiority Blue. And what I will do is mix a bunch of this into a cup. No need to make a separate vial or anything because we're just spraying this color right out of the bottle. And we will need to add a little bit of the Mr. Retarder Mild this time because it is quite humid again today. And I want to make sure that this stuff is drying. Well, actually, drying and also drying slowly because I've been getting a lot of blushing lately in my paint, and this seems to be solving it. It's just the middle of summer. Estimated to rain tonight, so you guys might even hear some thunder. Oops, well, I just spilled that. Off to a good start. Let me set this aside, and that's because the ratio is not, like, I can't account for how much spilled, but that's fine. We just spilled a little bit thinner, no paint. But yeah, so I was saying you guys might hear some thunder and a storm tonight because it is supposed to rain. Okay, now we're good. Okay, I'm only adding like 3 or 4 drops of this Mr. Retarder. You really don't need a lot at all. It's about like 10% or less of the whole total solution. So, all right, I'm gonna add this blue. This was a really nice mild blue. Very kind of on the teal green side. You can see a little ribbon coming off, but really nice. Sprays very I guess soft as a color. It's not a saturated color whatsoever. Probably used for some sort of military vehicle or airplane, but I like the color, so we're picking it up. Okay, let me get my mask. And let me double check to make sure that my airbrush is hooked up and spraying. Mr. Freaky. Hello, how are you? Gonna talk about what I just did in just a second because there's an intermediate step I want to do before we proceed with the base coat. Wow, look at that sexy lady. Let's see. Oh, started magnets, that's great. This is a cool kit and I really like the sculpt of it. And it looks like there's a lot of opportunity for texture as well from like those creepy hands. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. I might have to take off my mask for a little bit. Anyway, so let me take this off just for a second. What I just did was pre-shade on all of the pieces. What I'm going to do now is take a little bit of a sponge and kind of lightly wipe over them. And I do this because there's a lot of areas, especially on that ribbon, where you're able to focus and zero in on the shadings on those details. So you can see there's a lot of folds to this ribbon, but some of the shadings they may seem kind of like out of place, or you know, they're too big, meaning the spray pattern is too large. So what I do is I go in with a magic eraser sponge. Yep, you got it, Mr. Freaky. Got this sponge and I'm just gonna lightly brush over these. Not enough to take the primer coat off, but it should be enough to remove the paint I just applied. So already, you know, it takes off most of it. And I might go through and make another light pass of this pre-shading just to make sure I've got everything the way I want it. This is just an extra step I introduced that I tend to do more often these days. It's definitely optional, but if you got a kit with a lot of detail on it and you really want to get into those grooves, this is kind of similar to a wash, just with an airbrush. So you'll really keep all of the detail inside of those grooves or other detailed areas, and then the rest will be wiped out. Can also make your shading look a little more subtle. So if you want a broader approach, or like it to look like your kit is more shaded, this may not be the right thing for you, but I like it because I tend to prefer subtle shadings. So, whoa, got a big ol' warning on my antivirus, but no, I'm not gonna restart. Let's see. I hate the feeling of dry sponge. Yeah, it's definitely a, you know, a texture issue. Not for everybody, but I promise you, you may like it. No guarantees, but yeah. Let's see. Is it abrasive or does it have some kind of thinner on it? No thinner involved here, so there's nothing on here except for sponge. And you can think of it as akin to a higher grit sandpaper. So you can see some of the, you know, powdery stuff, the paint has been removed here. Yeah, really it's kind of the same thing that you do. You'd put it on your walls to wipe off grime and stuff. The only difference is usually you're adding water, including that as the abrasive. This I'm just basically brushing it off lightly and it's taking off everything. But you do want to make sure that after you do this, you kind of blow on it or get rid of the dust, because those fine kind of particles from the magic eraser or sponge can settle like into your paint job if you're not careful. So let me put this up and you guys can see it up close. And you can see that most of the shading is now localized into those cracks. So there's not really any in the highlight areas that are supposed to be highlighted. So back here it's a little more obvious. You can see the shadings are pretty intense here, but not really anywhere else. I might go through it again. Yeah, I don't know. I'm undecided. We'll see how the other pieces end up. This piece is looking pretty good. I might try to deepen the shadings a little bit in here, because once we put on the white top coat, it's really, you're not going to see very much. It's a very subtle shading, so your mileage may vary for the technique. So let's set that one aside, and these ones, her little scrunchies, I really didn't do too much. I just kind of focused on spraying the shading in between the little ridges here. So this piece is so small it keeps having trouble. Let's see. Come on. Maybe here? Oh, I saw it. I saw it move, but it doesn't want to focus. Let's see. Gotta hold my hand here. Alright, camera. It's been a couple seconds. I don't know why it's acting up. Weird. Anyway, same thing. Shadings are, you know, here. This could be problematic. Let's see. Yeah, it is on strike. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so I focused on putting the shadings in between each of these ridges. You can kind of see it here. Not really needing to do like anything crazy here because this is such a small piece, but you know, it is what it is. And her boots though, I do need to spray or brush these off as well because once we do that, we'll get the paint off of her little bows. So let's see. She has these little bows and shoelaces on the shoe. And most of Chun-Li's shoe is just plain white pretty much. It's not really that much going on. It's got shading, but nothing, you know, no color gradient or anything. So I really don't need to do too much with these boots. Which will be fine because most of the shading will be focused on her pants. So this is more what I mean. You can see the shading is now in between the bow, but not like on the bows themselves. So really cool technique if you want to, you know, put shading in certain areas and not in others. There's also a little line here on the boot, which let's see, you can see here. We'll probably work with some enamel and fill that in as well. I like to fill in lines that are sculpted. That's kind of my style, so it makes it a little bit more pops out a little bit more. So we'll probably mix a lightish greener color and then fill that in, but that's not till the detailing step. Let's do that for the other boot as well. And so far I think I'm good. I don't think we need to do another round of pre-shading. I might do it again after we put the flat base on, but haven't seen anything that I really messed up yet. So did take off some of the primer on those boots on the little shoelace, but that's fine, not too concerned. So here's the other one. You can see it's got a lot of blue inside of it, as well as on the tip here, but kind of a lot. And we'll stick that back there. So let me look at this one more time, make sure that both of these are, yeah, they're both pretty good. Roughly the same spot. It's gonna look a lot different once we put white top coat or white gloss on as well, because this primer is still kind of an off-white color. It's not super white. Yeah, this one is looking pretty good as well. Okay, so yeah, I think we're pretty much good then to start the white top coat. I might go back and shade these again after, but for now, let me put this paint back and we will mix up some white. Let me spray this out. I also had my airbrush spraying really finely, so let me show you guys. This is where it was at. So in terms of like adjustable, this is fully closed and I had it about here, and it can go out pretty far, like all the way out here for a huge pattern of spraying. You know, if I could get some fins, that would probably be helpful. So, you know, whatever. Okay, so let me get this cleaned up. We will be working with this brush again, so I do want to make sure that for now it's cleaned out, even if we're putting some blue back into it later. Let me grab a Q-tip. So yeah, painting really is one of those things where, you know, you can go into it, you can adjust it before, after, if you're not liking the look of it. So even though I have a plan, it's like plan in air quotes, may or may not, you know, change things on the fly, add different clear colors, etc. All right, gonna shut off this airbrush and switch into my Iwata. Oops, so I dropped that. So put the cap back on because this is does not have the protective needle coat on it. Needle guard, I think is what it's called. Okay. So my Iwata HPC Plus, the workhorse here. And let's turn this back on. Make sure it's spraying well. Yep. Okay. Then now we're gonna mix some flat or gloss white, which is just literally white in a cup. Same deal. We're just gonna use bottle color for this one, so nothing too crazy. I really don't know why this camera is fussing today. It's kind of frustrating. I have to like set the pieces up and then it wants to focus on paper towels in the back, which is like, okay, why? Okay. Same kind of ratio we always do here. And again, we're adding a tiny bit of Mr. Retarder this time just because it's so humid today and I really want this paint to lay flat. Oh, got a comment. Let's see. Such a shame I barely catch your streams. Love to learn more since you're about to start with your first kit. Dang. Yeah, where are you from? Thank you for tuning in, Art2Live. Means a lot. Hopefully you can catch the VODs later or watch them on YouTube, etc. There are a couple of different ways at this point, which I hope to make this type of stream available to people, because kit building is such a worldwide thing, you know. Everybody's on different time zones. My schedule changes all the time. Changing it, you know, again, thank you for those of you who tuned in today. This is pretty much my, I guess, first stream of the new week. So we're shifting our schedule to Tuesday, Thursday now because I start school in 2 weeks. So Monday, Wednesday is not going to be a thing. Although Monday, like, I don't know what's going on now because I checked my schedule and they shifted it online. So we'll see what's happening. I might end up doing Monday, Thursday if my online class is scheduled earlier in the day. But the whole point of it was a night thing. So we'll see. Yeah, what will your first kit be? Also wanting to see that before I mute myself again. So what happens here is that when I'm airbrushing, I have to mute myself because otherwise it's gonna be loud. Yuki Mori from Yamato Battleship. Cool. I know exactly who you're talking about. I don't know which kit exactly, but that's a cool character. So lots of fun opportunities. And paint. Always good. All right. So next step is going to be pretty easy. I'll probably need to mix 2 batches though because we'll be spraying the boots and everything, but also those 2 pieces that I talked about earlier, the top of the clothes, like her little shirt, sleeveless shirt, as well as the tattered clothes, since all of that has to be gloss white before we spray the Mr. Color Metallic. So we'll see how much paint I use. Might end up needing to mix a second batch, not sure, but in any case, it's happening. Let me get my mask back on. Safety first, you know, this we're spraying toxic stuff, so you want to make sure that you're wearing a mask and that you're not smelling stuff as you're spraying, because if you're smelling stuff, you need to either refit your mask or change out your filters or something. You should not be smelling any of this. And that goes for enamels, it goes for lacquer, it also goes to a certain extent for acrylics. Just because, you know, they are safer does not mean that you necessarily can be breathing in all the fumes all the time. So they're still spraying toxic chemicals. Let's see, want to start with something you love but doesn't need too many different colors. Yeah, her suit, I remember it. It's pretty simple, like kind of yellow reddish, right? If I'm thinking correctly. There are a couple iterations, I think, maybe. In any case, yeah, definitely good to start. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, good to start simple. Probably not a lot of skin tone is also, you know, helpful. So, sounds like you got a good one that you chose for your beginner kit. All right, guys, I am going to start now, so there's actually content on this stream, not just me talking the whole time. Although that's preferable too, you know, I like talking to you guys as well. All right, let me turn this on. This is my compressor. As always, spraying around 15 to 20 psi. That's kind of the goal here, the range you want to be in. Alright, gonna turn this on and mute myself just for a little bit.
Alright, brief intermission. Just finished spraying the pre-shaded parts, and so I'm going to transition into just those two pieces that needed white top coat or white gloss base, so the shirt top and the tattered clothes. Let me read some of your comments real quick. Hopefully you guys can hear me and my compressor is still going. Let's see. Okay, glad that you guys got screen stuff figured out. And brush kit top, love it. Love it. Alright, just want to make sure that there weren't any questions or anything. So you can see here that the pre-shading is pretty subtle now. It's not visible at all. It's pretty subtle. So you can definitely see it. Might end up doing that green. I think that something is kind of missing here, but I'm not sure what yet. So I will have to take a look. Also, this retarder is really doing the number on it. Very drying a lot slower than it usually does. Okay, so still got a lot of white paint, so I'm just going to move right into those top coats. Thank you! Alright, I just ran out of white, so I'm gonna mix a little bit more. Probably don't need too much. Let me take a quick look at this. Yeah, I got most of this glossy top coated, so you can see that it's still white. Not really a big change, but you know, it's shiny, so that's really it. There's also a yellowy spot right here. We like missed the primer, and let's see. That kind of yellow spot there that needs to be covered too. So there's still a little bit of glossy white we need to spray. Okay, let's see. Oh my gosh, Mr. Freaky, you're going ham. That's what I'm reading here. You're living up to the garage kit builder name, starting to build your hoard before you even start painting. That's just how it be sometimes though. Actually, most of the time. Okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna mix another full batch of white. If we end up not using all of it, it's fine. And then, so after we finish these clothes, or this tattered shirt, I'm going to switch over my airbrush to my 0.5 needle because I am thinking I'm going to apply that crystal color on top of the spoon and see what it looks like. I'm really thinking that this white is a little bit too plain, needs a little bit something else, so that might be it. Not sure yet, but that's why we try stuff. Okay. So just pour a little bit more into the cup, probably about a third or so, and then let me finish up this tattered clothes. You guys gotta give me 1 sec. It was not focusing. Of course, now when I turn it on, focuses again. So, whatever. Gonna turn this back on. Okie doke. Okay, compressor off. And yes, pearls. Yeah, hoping, not really sure how they'll look on here, but we're gonna give them a try. I didn't have it in the plan to do, but just kind of came to my mind before stream, and I thought, oh, that might be a good idea because, you know, elements of this kit are already pretty blue, and so throwing green in there won't really mess with stuff too much. Maybe. And yeah, I really like Zen Market too, Mr. Freaky. That's kind of my general one that I use for regular, you know, stuff that isn't, you know, mostly Yahoo auctions is what I use it for. And I like how you can just add money on your own and bid on your own. I also like Nyokyo for like Mercari and stuff, because the only problem with Zen Market is that they don't deal with Mercari.
Alright, gonna take this off just for a bit while I switch the airbrush over. Okay, it's all nice and clean. Let me wipe this off. Especially now when we're painting, you know, not just spoons. We want to make sure that our airbrush is clean in between uses. It's always good practice. At least for me, I don't like it when my paints kind of mix together if I don't want them to. So for major color shifts, I try to wipe things down pretty well. And if all goes well with this green after that, this will be kind of the last step for these pieces before we start working on the pants. So, okay. What's your latest additions were whoopie pie? Oh boy, you got your first bird maybe? Maybe. It's always a good starter. Little birds. Okay, shut this off. And Tsuru no Yakata. Cool. I don't remember, I know that of that sculptor, but I don't remember which kits they do off the top of my head. Okay, so this is my Master Airbrush 0.5 needle this time, so we're just kind of using everything. This is pretty standard for what I do these days, as I switch, you know, my airbrush regularly in between and different top coats, etc. Because each of these airbrushes serves a different purpose, so they're all useful in their own way. And rather than like continuously switch out needles and wonder, you know, if I've tightened everything correctly, just, whoops, I dropped that lid. It's rolling away. Oh, it rolled back to me. Nice. Rather than switch out needles continuously, I find it's a lot easier for me just to switch to these different airbrushes. So, not mandatory, but helpful, especially because I paint so much these days. Let's see, let me click these real quick. Oh, that's a big bird, girl. Yeah, that's not the typical chibi bird that I'm thinking of. And if I am probably thinking of this right, she probably has a ton of pieces. I know that Whoopie Pie, these bigger birds, she likes to split them up into a ton of pieces, which is great, you know, but also daunting. Actually, I had one of her really older works and ended up selling it because I just didn't want to deal with all of the pieces, and I wasn't super in love with her. She's gonna sit on your shelf. Yeah, for sure. As most kits do. Oh yes, I know of Tsuru no Yakata as well. They've got some really cool styles, and I'm so glad that they're selling these original characters on booth because, yeah, they're awesome. I think this one also has clear pieces, if I'm remembering correctly. Maybe. Let me click on one of them. There's a couple listings for this. 33 parts. Yeah, maybe. Kind of looks like there might be some in there, but not 100% sure. I don't know how else you'd get that translucent effect. But that would be a really fun one to build too. That one is super complex, but I love how bright you can get the colors with that kit. And so many color painting opportunities. Okay. So, just as a quick, not sure if I'm going to do this or not, I'm going to put in some Mr. Crystal color. This is tourmaline green. You can see it's a very shiny, kind of greenish, pinky color. That is going to be sprayed onto a spoon right here that we've prepared because I'm curious how this color will look, and I may or may not end up spraying the boots and the ribbon and her scrunchies with this color. So, you can see when it comes off. It is a very nice mild green. It's not blue green at all. It's just green. I do have another green as well. No, this one is probably the one. For those of you familiar with my Hoseki no Kuni kit or the Land of the Lustrous kit, I used this on Foss's like quote-unquote skin tone. So not really their skin tone, it's their gem, but this is a cool effect that you can do, is adding pearls to those kind of non-human kits and make them look a little shinier. Let's see, mod for a streamer on Twitch who makes mini hats in Lolita-inspired fashion. Oh yeah, that one's super cute, and I definitely get a Lolita like clothing vibe from it as well. Also a lot of color schemes for that kit potential as well, even though she's supposed to be like a bluebird or a robin or something. All of those whoopie pie ones are based off of birds, but you know, it is what it is. You can paint them however you want. Okay, this is not on. Let me turn this on. Okay, so the only complaint I had about this airbrush is that it will not spray at super high PSI. You can hear it's pretty quiet. It takes a while before my compressor turns on, and it's supposed to be spraying at 40 PSI right now, but it's very clearly not. So I will be keeping the PSI on this brush pretty high, probably around 35, just to account for that pressure difference in the first place. So let's try this spoon out. This will be a very brief spray session. I'm gonna basically turn the booth on and spray the spoon and then turn it off and take a look at it real quick. And if I like it, then we will do it for these other pieces. So let's give it a shot. Might as well. This is a nice simple kit in all honesty. So we might as well do some fun stuff to it if we have the opportunity. Just pour everything in there, because why not? And keep this around 35. Alright, turning this on. Alright, I am gonna go for it. I like the effect this gives. You can see it kind of makes it shiny and it has a green tone to it. It works really well with the shading color, the pre-shade that we did. So yeah, just gonna spray the scrunchies and the ribbon and her boots this color. Give them a little bit of extra dimension. So gonna turn this back on and turn the mic off.
So, going to close this off real quick and take a look at the pieces. Let's see. Yeah, spoons are kind of hard to find these days. A lot of countries are starting to outlaw them because they aren't really economically sustainable. And there's, you know, better I guess, alternatives available to them. So, but yeah, like Fry said, there is paint swatches available. I'd find that it's probably easiest
to make your own and do it that way, like they said, because buying the brand name paint swatches, so like Guy Notes, Mr. Color, they make them, but they're pretty pricey. And I want to be honest, like they work great for the base colors, so like out of the bottle colors, and maybe some clear shades and stuff. But I run through so many, you know, swatches and everything that I just don't feel like that would be really helpful for me. But yeah, if these spoons that I bought in bulk are any indication, you know, good riddance, because they are they are pretty bad if you gotta sand them down. Okay, so let me look at this real quick. One of these boots got a pretty light coat because I was running out, and the other boot, I think I sprayed too much, so I might have to go over these just a little bit with some white, kind of faded out. Let me compare them real quick. So you can see they're pretty shiny. Let's see if it will. There's kind of hard to tell, but in the light you can see here, rather than showing off like a plain glossy color, it shows off kind of this green highlight. So you can see there as I rotate it, and it's easier to see with the ribbon for sure because the ribbon has so many different facets to it. So, and this is not top coated with gloss yet, so when you put on a gloss, it's gonna be even more shiny. It's a pretty good color. But yeah, let me look at it real quick, just under. And once you mat this, so pearls are pretty diverse, so you can use them and you know, mat them down and they'll leave kind of a satiny shine to them, or if you want to gloss them, they leave a really strong kind of cast of whatever that color is. So here especially, you can see it was white before and now it's pretty green as opposed to a piece here. So this is just the plain white and this is with a pearl on it. See if it will focus a little. Oh, come on. Yeah, so pretty big difference here. Green, not green. Okay, so let me, I do need to add a little bit more white to the scrunchie, and I'm gonna go over one of these boots areas just real quick. Had to look at it again because I think I added a little bit too much pearl and I did not want that much pearl on it. And actually I can probably just use the 0.5 brush. I'm not too worried here. Okay, there will still be some pearls inside of this brush, so just something to keep in mind, and I'll put a little bit more in here. 0.5 runs through paint pretty quickly. I'm actually not even going to turn on my booth for this. I'm just going to spray it out real quick. It will not take very long. So there was just one spot on the scrunchie that looked kind of like I missed it. Okay. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Probably use a little more pearl. And where was that other boot? Let's see. That one, I think it was this one. Yeah, this is the boot. Okay, yeah, that dulled it out a little bit. And let's do it. Okay. Put this away. And I'm gonna mix a tiny bit more pearl just because I want to fix those areas again. And after that, we should be good. So we'll let that sit and, you know, I'll top coat it tomorrow. But most of those white pieces, they are how they are. There's not really any additional detailing we need to do to them until the end. Okay, so let me get this. Let me grab some more thinner as well. I know white on a white background is not the most exciting stream, so thank you, you know, people who are watching. This would be the most boring part, I guess, of all of this painting because the rest is actual color. But painting whites is, you know, important too. And it will often look like, you know, your kit doesn't have a lot on it and then you add those colors and the white becomes more important in bringing out everything else. So it's a color that goes very well with everything else. What do you usually top coat with? I typically use Mr. Hobby gloss. So I use a variety of them. I don't think I have any on hand. Give me 1 second to finish this mixture so I don't forget the ratio, and then I will pull out ones that I use. I have the flat one on my desk right now, but not the gloss, so. Okay, this is kind of a lot. I definitely don't need a full mixture here, but I just brain farted and did a whole thing. Okay, let me grab it real quick. It is just sitting on my desk, so. At least it should be. Oh, maybe I do have it over here. Yeah, looks like I do. Let me grab the other one though. And yeah, okay. So I kind of use a variety of them, but they're all similar brand from Mr. Color. There's a variety of glosses that Mr. Color makes. GX 100, I think, is the regular blue one. Let's see. GX 100, Mr. Hobby, Mr. Color. Yeah, okay, so Mr. Color GX 100 is their super clear. It is in a little blue bottle, and that's kind of the standard top coat, so that one doesn't have any additional properties. It's just a really nice solid gloss coat. You could just Google it or I'll type it in. Let's see. Mr. Color GX 100. So that one is the one that I kind of just randomly have. More often than not though I use, and it depends what goes in my order, GX 112. So this is basically the same exact product as GX 100, except it has UV resistant properties. So if you have your garage kits and you're displaying them for a long time and they're going to be near sunlight, etc., this supposedly will help prevent them from yellowing and prevent your kits and your paint job from going yellow. And so this is the one I use a lot. This is the gloss one. This is the same product, except it's the flat coat, so GX 113. So 112 is gloss, 113 is the flat, and 114 is another version of flat. This is Mr. Color Super Smooth Clear. So really, honestly, there's not too much of a difference between 13 and 14. But I think that this one goes on just a little bit more velvety, so it looks a little bit softer. I would say it has a slightly matter finish, like more matte compared to the GX 113. So this is a nice alternative if you don't have this one. I buy my glosses kind of in bulk from Seal Model, and I tend to stock up a lot more of the gloss than I do the flat because I top coat pretty much everything with gloss before the final finish. So you can always, you know, go down to a matte finish after you spray a gloss top coat. So what I typically do is I spray the 112 or the 100, depends on what I have or what I pick out of my storage. And then when I am done and ready to, you know, finish the kit, if it's like skin tone, I'll typically go in and spray it with, you know, either one of these, depends what's in here. I don't really have any left of this, and so I'm just using this one at this point. So either works. I do, you know, use these through an airbrush, so if you're looking for a spray can one, Mr. Color and Mr. Hobby same thing, but they do make spray can versions of these as well. So I would, urge you to look and see what method works best for you. But these ones I like because you get a lot in the bottle. They usually last me, a couple of kits worth. And so they're a good investment, especially if you're going to be, airbrushing a lot and working with a lot of stuff. Yes, yeah, you can absolutely start with a gloss finish and then go down to a matte finish. That's kind of the beauty of these kits. What I generally recommend is that you do start with a gloss finish and end with a matte, because it's a little bit harder and you might get a slightly rougher texture if you go from matte finish up to gloss. And so the way that the matte works is that it's just kind of spraying this highly concentrated milky texture onto it. And so I guess I have seen some particle residue. It's not quite as apparent, when you're working with the lacquer stuff, but it's easier for sure to go from gloss to matte. And I've never had an issue, at least with these paints, where it, kind of gives you a weird finish. What can happen if you spray too much too quickly is you can end up with a milky, finish. And so when people say milky finishes, they're generally referring to spraying too much of a matte coat on top of their piece. And so what happens particularly with spray cans, if you start with a gloss and then you spray a ton of, matte too quickly, it'll form this kind of milky color that goes on your kit. And that may or may not resolve itself as the color dries. So I just urge you guys to apply your top coats in thin layers. That's kind of the standard, to go into thin layers. And other than that, it's pretty much, you can do whatever. You have any issues with having too many layers of paint? Yes, I would say that I have had issues with that before. A lot of that will depend how heavy you spray and how much leveling thinner you have on, or how much you put in. And so if you have more leveling thinner, that'll kind of self-correct itself and spread everything out. But the more you spray onto your kit and the thicker layers you put on, the more you're increasing the chance of losing those details. So especially when it's coming to things like faces, etc., you want to be working up in thin layers. You don't want to just go in and spray a ton of paint right away, because that will affect it and it will look like you have a thick layer of paint. Same goes with hand painting. So a lot of beginners, back when I started, you don't want to thin your paints really well. You just want to kind of go in. You're going to get kind of globby look if you don't thin your paints properly. So what all modelers since long ago have said is milky consistency, meaning you want it kind of like thinned out. And so especially not a good example because this is a pearl, but you want it to look like milk and kind of feel like it would pour like milk. It doesn't seem like, hard to explain, but you'll know it when you get to that consistency. So that's what you want to have, is the milky consistency, both for hand painting and for spray painting. And that goes for everything. I do that for lacquer, I do that for enamel, I do that for acrylic. It's always kind of the same, but your ratios will vary. So, I can't give you an exact number ratio because it will depend where you're at climate-wise and, etc. Even now, though, I do have issues occasionally where I spray too thick too fast, and you hope that it self-corrects, but sometimes it doesn't, and then it's kind of up to you if you want to, pursue the repaint and strip everything, or just leave it as is. All right, let me spray the rest of these sparkles and pearls real quick. It's just like 2 or 3 pieces real briefly. I'm not even going to turn my booth on. And then I will clean this up and we'll transition into the pants. And I think all we'll probably have time for today is laying the base coat of the pants down, which is fine. That actually gives the paint a chance to settle and cure before we start the clear coat. So I do occasionally do that. I just put down a base coat and then I leave it overnight or however many hours, etc. So that's what's up next. And this is gonna be like 1 second, so again, I'm not gonna put my booth on. I'm just gonna give this a quick swipe. put everything in here. I do find that the pearls tend to separate relatively quickly from your thinner, and so once you mix it, don't let it sit too long, or you'll just need to re-agitate the solution. So if you see me kind of shaking the can or shaking, you know, like this, that's why. I'm just re-agitating everything. Same for if I have the cup on and I just touch this and I press on it, press on the trigger, that causes bubbling inside of here, and so that can also be used to re-agitate your solution. And most of this I'm talking about lacquer, so lacquer is really good about being thinner compatible, I guess, and being able to, it's workable solution. Whereas acrylic, if you let that fully dry out, you're pretty much screwed. So it'll end up like kind of like a clay cake where it's got cracks in it. You can't reactivate that. It's a no-go. So that's one of the benefits of lacquer, is being able to repeatedly use your solutions and your paint mixtures, even if you step aside and you let it dry for a little bit, etc. Okay, that should be good. I'm gonna let that sit for the rest of the night, and I'll take one final look at it just because I like to double check everything. And this I'm just actually just gonna pour back in here. I don't even need it. Alternatively, if you have a vial or something, you can also just put it into a spare vial. Okay, let me grab some of this, and we're gonna clean up this brush all nice now because we are done using this needle and this brush for now. Gonna be some interesting textures and colors on this kit again. I did not intend to use a bunch of pearls on this kit like we did with the Made kit, but you know, sometimes these smaller and simpler kits can really benefit from some additional stuff. It's gonna be shiny. We're gonna have gold metallics, some blue metallics, some pearls, but I will be keeping her hair and skin tone non-pearly this time. I don't think I'm gonna put pearl on her skin this time, but we'll see. To be determined. All right. So next up is pants. So I'm gonna start only with base coat for this. That's probably as far as we're gonna get, because we will be post shading this with some clear paints. So last time when we made spoons, we sprayed this spoon. So this is a nice kind of brown paint, and then this really nice dark brown is a clear paint that we put on top of it. You can ignore all of this at the bottom because that's stuff that I didn't sand off, so the paint did not stick. So the only thing that matters is this. But see how it has a really nice naturally shiny coat. It's a really nice healthy brown that goes pretty well with this white. So it should, work well with the boots. Let's see, it's time for your D&D game. We'll be lurking a bit. No worries. Pretty much gonna wrap this stream up just with spraying the base coat on these paints. So no worries on that end. Don't think we'll have time for clears. It's already 9:30, surprisingly. So anyway, that's where we're at now. Nice green though. You can see that the green is really shining here. And when it works next to the blue, it's pretty good. I really like it. Should be okay. All right, so I do have a mixture prepared for this. There were a couple colors that we had to mix ahead of time, namely the hair and her skin and the tights. I think that was it. So, wait, there was one other. Nope, that was it. So this is the color. It's called Monk Tights, or just her pants. It's kind of separated, the solution separated into two parts. So we're just gonna shake it up really quick. And no thinning or anything needed here. I think what I'll do is just add a tiny bit of retarder, since I didn't do that when I mixed this color. At least I don't remember doing that. So all we'll need to do is take paint out of this vial and then add a bit of retarder and we're good to go. So that's the benefit of all the spoon painting and the mixtures and writing everything down, is that once you have it, you're good to go. So let me adjust my spoons, or not my spoons, keep thinking about spoons, my alligator clips. I literally had to think about that for like 5 seconds because I do want these pieces that we sprayed white to just sit in a good spot where I won't bother them. Okay, so now I can just push these in the front. I do a lot of maintenance regarding like moving pieces around on my bench too to make sure that everything is good and no pieces hit each other, etc. So I do have a little dropper already ready for this because I tested this color out earlier tonight. And actually before I do that, let me make sure this is on and spray as well. Yep, we're good, it's nice and clean. So just gonna take one dropper for now of this and put it into my airbrush cup, gravity feed. Gonna add just a few drops of the Mr. Retarder Mild as well. Only gonna add like 2. Okay, and then in order to mix that really well, you can just hold on to the edge or the end of your cup. Let's get this to focus, because that will be useful if it will focus. Okay, so hold on to the end of it, press down, and you can see it's bubbling. So that's pretty much how you easy mix paint in your cups. I don't recommend just like taking paint from the, vials that it's in and then putting it into it and mixing it that way, because you can easily get paint clogs. But for pre-mixed paints, I find that's a good way just to quickly agitate solution. Okay, I'm gonna put this mask back on and we will be base coating her pants. So
gonna kind of give each of these a light pass and then do a bit of like rough shading in areas that are a little darker, but in the end I'm expecting these pieces to more or less, look the same and be pretty saturated in color. This is kind of the color that I'm aiming for here, so this kind of brownish color right out of the bottle. Once we put the clear black mixture on, it'll be a little darker and more vibrant. So let's see. Out of curiosity, do you have a picture of your workspace setup? I'm trying to organize. No, I do not. Not on hand. And definitely not like where I can share through Imager, etc. At the moment. Let me see if I have any pictures on my Instagram real quick before we start. But I don't think I've posted a setup recently. Yeah, I don't have anything recent. Let's see. There is a post from 2019 that has my bench, so if you feel like digging through my Instagram, it looks like that sometimes. But no, I don't. A lot of my paints are kind of not in my workbench area, so I have a section for my booth like here, and then the rest of the space over here is like rough area where I keep my paints and I do all my sanding, etc. And then to the right, so off of my bench setup, kind of in that direction, I have a Calyx bookshelf, so the IKEA bookshelf. And then I basically just store everything on there, so either on the shelves or on a wall, etc. So maybe someday I'll do an updated, room area or like tour of my station. But compared to a lot of people's, mine is pretty clean. I guess that's the word for it. I try to keep it pretty minimalist, and I'm really a stickler for keeping everything organized and knowing, putting my paints back as soon as I'm done using them, etc. Because I tend to handle or mishandle pieces a lot and drop them, and I really try to prevent making errors and scratching my kit and stuff. So I try to keep my base clean. Let's see. Yeah, no worries. Hopefully that gives you an explanation without actually showing you any photos. But maybe someday I'll have to take another photo. Alright, we're going to spray some base color now while we are still in the stream time. So let me get this on. I'm going to mute myself And after a while, so I'll probably run through like one or two of these solutions. I'll turn the booth off here and there just so I can talk you guys through it as usual. So let's get this started. quick break. I'm gonna refill, and then I'm gonna move over to the other pants, and then kind of reevaluate. Again, this is just the base coat. I haven't added any clear shading on it all, so really, what we're doing is building thin layers and just working in the cracks, etc. So still kind of rough, like not 100% where I want it. There's like a splotch here and there, but it's whatever. Let's see. Makes spraying look easy. It takes a lot of practice and knowing where to shade. So I'm putting on a show for you guys. Trust me, it's not always this easy. Gotta bring out my best. Okay. For whatever reason, this might act up too. This clip just kind of keeps falling off, so we'll see. I feel like, yeah, okay. I feel like that's not going to be a good thing. I'm going to switch out these real quick. The last thing I want is to be spraying and then have that clip go flying off and my wet paint job just flies off. Alright, let me see. Oh yeah, we're out. Stopped at a good spot. Alright, let's put a little bit more in here. So it seems like one is about, the perfect amount here. I just always mix so much because I'm never sure if I'm gonna drop a piece or need to, scrap some paint and start over, etc. This one is just for fun anyway, so even if there's like a couple of splotches or whatever, I'm not gonna be too hard on myself for it. Especially because once we add that clear shading, it will blend things in a little bit better. Wipe some of this off though. It's been a while since I cleaned the needle out here. Alright, let's get going on the other boot, or the other pants. Oh yeah, that's on. Alright, so just ran out of this brown again. What I'm actually going to do is switch over to my badger real quick, because I was noticing I was getting some pretty good definition by focusing on those cracks and making them darker than the rest of the kit. So I meant to do this when we're going to be just clear shading, but what I'm going to do basically is just go in between the pockets of the pants and further deepen those shadings with the base color. So even if you're only spraying one color, there's different bits of dimension you can get on a kit, and let me show you that real quick. So I really just went in pretty rough with this, and so there's still like a couple splotches and stuff, but you can see that there's some definition that varies. There's a splotch I'm talking about. But you can see it's darker like here rather than on the front panel of it. I didn't really, this is a pretty rough shading job. Usually I go in with my Sotar and do it too, do it first. But you can see that it's darker here than it is on the front here, etc. Let's see, like that. So this area is really dark, this area is not, etc. And same for the other piece. Certain parts of this are pretty darkly shaded around the top here, you can see, while others aren't. We will further, adjust these shadings with the Alright, just about finished. I guess technically that's pre-shading, so again, it's just the base color. You see that Rebel Star left us, so good night, Rebel Star, and rest in peace tonight. Alright, so what we're gonna do real quick to wrap up, I'm gonna clean this brush up. We're done with this brush tonight. I'm gonna switch over to my Iwata one final time and just give kind of everything a base coat again and darken that color just a little bit more. I will show you what the spoon looks like in comparison to the pants in just a moment. I guess so technically we could have probably pre-shaded first with this brush before switching over to the Iwata, but I wasn't sure how deep I wanted these shadings. Because the thing about brown is that it can get dark real quick. And so going too far just means you're not going to end up getting any of that nice kind of coppery lighter tone that goes on when you have a thin layer. So let's see. So this is the spoon. And this is where we're at with the pants right now. So you can see it's definitely a lot brighter on this color than it is, you know, on the spoon. And that's because this was a saturated color, so we just completely covered that spoon in paint. Whereas this, we're gradually building thin layers. So there's still a little bit of wiggle room here in how dark we can make this color. And clear color will also make it darker. So, you know, it is what it is. But right now, this is kind of what it looks like. And so I'm going to spray just a little bit more and make everything a little darker. And that should be our ending point tonight. So hoping that little paint splot is in the back of her pants and not the front. But if not, that's fine. This is a little warrior girl, so I'm not concerned if she's a little grainy. And I might actually make her a little bit grainy. I'm not sure if I'll add anything leathery to her, so we'll see. Alright, gonna mute this one final time. Alright, I think that is a good place to stop for tonight. I don't want to go too far too quickly and oversaturate that piece, because then we're going to end up losing some of that darker shading that we did with the base color. And so let me clean this up. I'll look at the pieces, and then we will review and go over what needs to happen for Thursday. Hope you all enjoyed a 101 on shading just with one color. So depending on the color that you're spraying, you can get some pretty dramatic results by going light in some areas and dark in some others. So clear paints and stuff are nice, and they will add, you know, another dimension, but if you're running low on time or paint or anything, you can definitely get good results just by applying the same color in different intensities. So gonna give this a nice cleaning because we did a lot. Okay, that should be good. So just took the needle out and gave it a spray. And just still wearing my mask because I don't want to be back spraying into my face. Okay. That should be good, and don't need too much. This is actually pretty clean here, so. I'm not going to push these pieces together or try them with the magnet right now because the paint isn't even cured, so that will be something for
another day. Alright, so let's take a look real quick. Been a while since I painted a really dark kind of burnished brown, so this has been interesting in remembering how this kind of color sprays on. A lot of times I used to just spray like pretty crazy and then do a clear color, but we can get a little bit more dimension by spraying not too fast. So let's see. Come on, once again. I am urging you, camera, to focus. Let's see. Wow, it's like double visioned here. What's happening? There we go. Alright, so pretty dramatic already, even with one color. It really went pretty rough with this, you know, because I was expecting to saturate the piece. So all of the shadings are not perfectly where I want them. It's kind of rough looking, but given the fact that these pants are so crazy anyway, this already looks pretty decent. So just a couple of splotches that kind of popped out onto the pieces, but as a whole it's pretty smooth. Nothing that I would, like, for my own kit, care too much about. The only way you can really correct splotches like this, if you get them on a job where you're slowly layering color, it's like that splotch right there, is to add another color on top of it, so like a lighter color or a darker color, but realize you're never going to get this intensity of color again if you do that. So this kind of goes hand in hand with stuff like clear shading or clear color, like the skin tone. If you get a splotch, like, that's it, you got to start over. So rather than scrap this whole piece, given it had so many issues in the first place, I'm just going to live with it. We'll do some adjustments with clear later that'll make it less obvious. But yeah, it's looking pretty good, looking pretty decently shaded already. The other piece is more or less the same way, so I really focused on, sorry, trying to angle this so you guys can see it, but my arm's just in the way. There we go. So I really focused on filling in the cracks first, so kind of the inner folds of those pants, and then went along the top, so the bottom here, as well as the top here, and then, what else did I do? That's pretty much all I did for that. Then I gave it a big spraying across it. Let's see, you wouldn't try melamine sponging it? No, and let me tell you why. For really dark splotches like this, I tend to avoid using the sponge because the first layer that will come off is the lighter layer rather than that splotch. You can take off the splotch by the melamine sponge, but you know, you're gonna risk taking off all the rest of the paint too. So not sure if I feel like doing that for this piece. What we will do, and when we will use the melamine sponge, is when we're using the clear color on Thursday. So what I'm really going to do is focus that clear color in between the cracks here and the same spots where I shaded with this base color basically. And then I will use the sponge and I will be able to wipe off the clear color. And because this paint will be cured by that time, this base layer is much less likely to come off when we use that sponge. So that's kind of why I like to do my base coats first, is because then it has a chance to cure and I'm less likely to kind of sponge it off. So yeah, that will be really good. And to be honest, I was not expecting to do some, like, I guess pre-shading or shading with this base color on this kit. I was fully expecting to just paint the whole piece this really, really dark brown. But you can see that saturating a really dark brown results in, it's a pretty dark brown. So we've got this darker color here, this kind of coppery orange coming out. That's not the color that I mixed. So the color that I physically mixed is pretty dark, but you can see when you spray it thin, it comes out a lot different. So just something that, happens with airbrushing. You spray thin layers and you get gradual color. In any case, yeah, so that's what we'll be focusing on. Unfortunately, we did not reach the clear color this time, so we will be sure to do that next time because, that's pretty much all we have to do on those pants. Here's a brief comparison, let me pull it out, of what the pants look like with the boot right now. So, not too crazy, but, it is what it is right now. Sometimes colors kind of look weird when they're not, when you don't have the full color scheme together. And a lot of times I doubt myself and I think, is that really like the color that I want? But if you stick to your palette and your spoons, then you will end up where you want to be. So that's a big thing is making sure you follow your paint mixture. If you end up altering that in any way, you're going to alter the way the rest of the other colors look too. So anyway, things we're going to do on Thursday. So next stream will be Thursday, the 19th of August. We will be, let me look at this real quick, finishing the color on the pants. So those are things we can get out of the way. Then we will be spraying skin tone. That's something that needs to happen next time. So skin will be next. And I think we can't do the metallic blue because the metallic blue on that shirt is relying on the little belly. So I have to have her belly sprayed first and then top coat that before we move on to the metallic blue. But I can possibly spray her tattered clothes blue. But we can't do any of the hair until the skin is sprayed. So we'll do skin for sure. Maybe some blue and finish up the pants, and that, I think skin will take a little while, so that's probably a good place that will drop off. And this is a pretty simple kit, so after that, after we spray the blues and get the hair, that's really, I think, all we need to airbrush, and we can just move on directly to detailing. So that's pretty much where we're at. Not too much craziness happening. A lot of prep for not a lot of painting. Also, I feel really bad about this, but if you look at that character reference, you'll notice she has two little hairs popping out of by her ears. They're those very thin tendrils. I have no idea where those went. I'm pretty sure I threw them away or they fell somewhere and I lost them. I was focusing a lot on making sure all the tiny parts of my current commission were together, and somehow I don't know where those went. So what we will have to do to, make those little tendrils is, I'm planning on paper. So I want to make them little tiny, curly cues. I think that'd be really cute. And I've done this type of thing before, so I'm not too fussed about it. Yeah. It sucks, but it's also they were not pieces that I super needed. The only really important piece that I'm glad I did not lose was her front hair piece. So this this tiny piece right here. So if I had lost this, I would have been oh shit. But we're okay for that. So I'm just gonna make like some little paper tendrils or something, or I don't know yet. But it should be no problem in terms of fixing it. Let's see, you lost a tiny hand. Oh God. What are you planning to do about that? Are you planning to sculpt it, or like what can you do? That's my worst nightmare, is losing like actual pieces I know I can't resculpt or remake. These little hairs, I'm like, whatever. But if it was a hand, I would be really sad. In that case, usually like you have to either resculpt it or find a fake copy and get like another copy of it, or hope that somebody has the same kit and maybe they can recast it for you, like a private one-off, you know, for a missing piece. People do that sometimes, but it's pretty rough when you lose a piece like that. Yeah, definitely just kind of look around, check your vacuum, don't throw away your trash. That's typically what I do. Check your vents. So a lot of times when I have a vent, like I have a vent right underneath my booth here, and so when I drop a piece, I'm like, oh my God. And I'd say about 40% of the time it falls in that vent. So we're good. But yeah, good luck. I hope you find it. Anyway, we're gonna stop right here. Not too much more we can do tonight. So next stream will be on the 19th of August, Thursday, same time, 8 p.m. EST. Hope you guys can make it. We'll be doing some skin painting. So I know that's something a lot of you guys like. Hope to see you there, and have a good night. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.